Some of our theories were right. Hello! Gang, this chapter may look like one of the biggest and most impactful shit hits the fan moments in Hunter x Hunter history, but I'm here to tell you it's actually even bigger than we thought. For instance, I'm 99% confident this chapter revealed the identity of Silent Majority's user, and nobody noticed it amidst the whirlwind of other insane happenings. So sit the fuck down, people. I'm gonna dissect this chapter piece by black and white piece, page by page, and we're gonna get every little bit of suck war goodness out of this that we possibly can. For starters, we see the Coffin Room again, and have confirmation that it is, in fact, a physical space located on the Black Whale. Not that there was, much doubt here, of course, but the way this is drawn makes it look like it really isn't some kind of pocket dimension like I half expected. Also, if you take a look at the Coffin Room's little flames of life, you can see that the dead princes are being organized in order of birth. Minor detail, I just felt like mentioning it because I greatly appreciate Togashi's efforts to make these sorts of things consistent. Anyway, we got confirmation that Halk actually still counts as eligible for the throne, and these coffins can, in fact, detect whether or not a person's soul is alive. And side note, Nasubi looks really pissed about it. He's like, man, I really hope that stupid Halkenberg was dead. It would have been hilarious, goddammit. Speaking of Halkenberg, boom! Rumbling. That's right, baby. Every single one of you who tried to convince me that Halkenberg couldn't use his arrow without his body, even though his actions make zero sense if that's the case, owes me a fucking dollar. Then again, everybody who I convinced Halkenberg was Benjamin with this video, well, I owe them a dollar because that theory is officially dead. For now, anyway. I mean, Halkenberg could end up possessing Benjamin later, but my idea that the man in chapter 410 is him feels pretty over and done with. On the other hand, I do want to say, a lot has happened between this chapter, which takes place about half an hour, I want to say, before martial law, and chapter 410, which takes place 40 minutes into it. So I guess it's technically possible. Imagine Halkenberg stole Benjamin's body, thinking he was going to take advantage of martial law, only to realize he's dying from TSK-17. It would be a really karmically fitting punishment to poison himself, only to then jack a body that he doesn't realize is already poisoned. So, Balsamicanberg. God, I can't keep saying that. That's so hard to say. What do I call him? Blackenberg? No, that feels wrong. Anyway, he has shot an arrow toward his brother, apparently. And the way this text box is laid out, you're meant to think he's targeting Benjamin. However, that is impossible. And before we go any further with this chapter, I just want to say I'm pretty sure I know exactly who this arrow is targeted at. Well, Halkenberg is in room 1009, you see, so his options for which brother to target are very limited to one to be specific. The princes across from his room are dead, Fugetsu is a girl, and also might be in the hospital as opposed to her room, and so all we have left is Loserus, and that makes me think I know exactly what the hell is happening. It's like this, Halkenberg can't really shoot through a wall as he pleases. He has to have a way to hit his target, because if he misses, he probably dies, right? Let's go back to the Shikaku incident, right? We never figured out why exactly Halk had Shikaku die in front of the room of Loserus, of all people. However, I have a theory that I would have made a video on if the hiatus had lasted a little longer, so now you're all getting the short version. You're welcome. By having a soldier ring the doorbell, it means somebody has to answer it. And by the layout of his own neighboring room, Halkenberg knows exactly where the person answering the door would be. Thus, he shot an arrow through the wall to possess one of Loserus's guards, in this case, Rice. And what do you know? In this panel after Shikaku dies, Rice is on the floor, as if he just suddenly collapsed. And just like that, Halkenberg has a follower in Loserus's room who can tell him exactly where Loserus is going to be, so Halk can target him through the wall. Just like this gentleman on the keyboard who helped Halkenberg target Balsamico through the corridors of the Kakanese courthouse. This makes a whole lot of unanswered plot points line up neatly. Remember, there's one Halkenberg shot left unexplained. Kurapika felt a third rumbling of aura, but we never learned who was targeted. Furthermore, it fits symbolically. Loserus is named after, of course, Lazarus, a man who came back from the dead, and guess what? Loserus is now about to be Halkenberg's ticket to resurrecting himself in a royal body, eligible to win the succession war. Side note, yes, Natsubi says he's still eligible, but eligible for the contest and eligible in the eyes of the law are different. The contest is designed for the princes to assassinate each other, after all, but those who commit crimes are still held legally responsible if caught. I think the eligibility is the same. Even if Halkenberg is eligible by the terms of the contest, he has to find a way to make his body legally eligible to become king. Doesn't stop there, of course. Hasn't it been roughly 3 days, if I'm not mistaken, since Halkenberg's body died? The man who's already been surrounded by Jesus parallels now has the chance to come back to life 3 days after he's quote unquote killed. And this has huge implications for Kaiser Melody and Cacho Beast, who, reminder, are going to try to kill Luzerus. Maybe they have already tried to kill Luzerus. It is unclear what the timing on all this is. I mean, I think it's like 4 p.m. I'm not entirely sure. They said tonight. What is tonight? Maybe they're in like an Antarctica type time zone where the sun sets at 4 p.m., also known as New South Wales, Australia right now. The timing on all this is murky, but there's two possibilities. Either they're going to try to kill Luzerus and find themselves instead fighting a resurrected Halkenberg, or the assassination has already occurred and Luzerus is dead. Halkenberg would know this if Rice is in the other room feeding them information. And see, in this panel, he talks about testing a hypothesis and exploring the mechanics of his ability. What if that hypothesis is whether or not he can possess dead bodies? That said, this could mean other things. For instance, it might be, will Balsamico regain control of his body if I leave his body? Which I have to imagine also is why he's duct taped to a chair like this, surrounded by Halkenberg's followers. God, I wish that were me instead. Not that these restraints would stop a skilled Nen user, but still. However, could also be something about ensuring that Halkenberg is the one to body swap, or whose guardian spirit beast he'll have if he succeeds, or any number of things. But we just have to keep in mind, while theorizing about this incident in particular, that Halkenberg's ability here is probably going to have some sort of twist to it this time that we haven't seen before. Anyway, if Halkenberg truly is targeting Luzerus's dead body, then that makes the Lazarus parallels even stronger. I think. I mean, I haven't actually read the Bible in a very long time. All I know is that Lazarus came back from the dead. Was Lazarus even in the Bible? I don't know. Anyway, if Melody and co try to then kill Halken Luzerus, this could be what puts Halkenberg's faction into conflict with Karapica's and accelerates his descent into villainy, or at the very least, establishes him as a threat that Karapica needs to deal with. But for now, let's continue. So, Benjamin's about to move to detain Halkenberg when he finds himself infected by the TSK-17. So pretty much everybody assumed that Balsamikenberg was the one who poisoned Benjamin, but in a plot twist I don't think literally anybody saw coming, because how could we? It was not. Benjamin was poisoned by an entirely different vial of TSK-17, and mother of God, it was Furyov. I did not see this coming. But you guys read the chapter, you know what's up, I assume. Furyov was coerced into betraying Benjamin by First Queen Unma, because she wants Halkenberg to win and is working with Beyond. What the fuck? Okay, so first of all, this basically confirms that Halkenberg is Beyond's child, right? Or at the very least, he's one of them, because she is working with Beyond and scheming to get Halkenberg on the throne. The threat was use the TSK-17 to kill Benjamin, or else Beyond will activate the curse on you and do it for you. And a lot of that just doesn't make any sense to me, but I don't think Furyov is lying, so we'll come back to that in a hot second. Anyway, the long and short of it is, Furyov thinks the only way to protect Benjamin from the curse is to reflect it back on the cursed offering by removing an applicable target. The wording here is a bit murky, but by cursed offering, I think he means himself, because he is an offering and he is cursed, therefore, cursed offering. Essentially, if Benjamin's body is dead, the curse on Furyov can't target him and will consume Furyov. That is what I assume he means by reflecting the curse. And so, rather than find an exorcist, Furyov engineered all this to buy some time and make it seem like he had, in fact, complied with the Queen's threat. He made this choice because of his ability, which we'll go in depth on in a second. It's called Full Metal Alchemist, but it's also called Combo Master, depending on whether you read it in kana or kanji. Side note, that is why most Nen abilities have two names, like Karapika, the kana spell Dowsing Chain, but the kanji spell, Diviner Little Finger, I think it is. Anyway, or Diviner Ring Finger, you get the idea. Anyway, just a cool little Hunter x Hunter fact. And yeah, that's why I'm dressed as a Full Metal Alchemist character today, in case you didn't realize. So, Full Metal Alchemist lets Furyov analyze abilities. And he realized that with whatever ability is in Benjamin's guardian spirit beast, Benjamin can turn himself into an immortal guardian deity of the Kakin Empire and rule the country forever. What? So apparently, whatever Benjamin's beast does, we don't know yet, will somehow preserve his consciousness if they can make all this work. No body, no target. Benjamin escapes the curse plan, easy peasy. And thematically, this is all some very interesting stuff. Benjamin is straight up trying to evolve himself into something beyond humanity, an actual immortal god. And he doesn't say protective spirit, he says god. His aspiration is godhood. And yeah, immortality, divinity. And furthermore, he speculates that this is the reason that this is the biggest, baddest succession war in Kakinese history. He thinks that Nasabi engineered all this to create this god that he envisions himself as. Of course, this might be part of his egomaniacal ramblings, high as he is on the revelation of the shit he has to do and the adrenaline of having to do it and realizing he's fucking dying. But I do think the idea of humans forcibly evolving themselves into something more fierce and formidable on the way to the eldritch hellscape that is the Dark Continent is a very interesting one. It's like one final level grinding session before the boss fight. An attempt to elevate the human race past the frail creatures that were defeated by the Dark Continent in the past. After all, regardless of Beyond's plans, you have to remember that it's Nasabi's plan to colonize the Dark Continent and revolutionize humanity, with the Kakin Empire at the forefront, of course. Okay, let's talk about Furyov's ability. Hot damn, this one could be a full video unto itself. So, Furyov is a specialist, first of all, and he can apparently passively absorb information about an ability, like mind reading, which is insane and has some horrifying implications for all the time he spent around Karapka, and some other such affairs we'll talk about in a sec. Furyov is then able to create equipment designed to either neutralize or reinforce the ability in question, and both the analysis and forging periods take time. Side note, the Togashi's troop translation uses the word transmute, which may lead you to believe this equipment is made of transmuted aura, like Gon's scissors. However, the kanji they translated as transmute can actually mean craft or forge, but is translated as transmute in the English version of the Full Metal Alchemist manga, and Voracious Drake chose that word specifically for that reference. However, it is not the same kanji that is used for the Nen Affinity transmutation, so it's entirely possible the equipment is conjured, or more likely, Furyov conjures the materials and tools, but then has to physically forge or make it himself. So on the surface, Furyov's ability looks like a straight upgrade to Rihan's and was absolutely designed for the Succession War. However, there are some key differences that I want to point out. Don't get me wrong, I think Furyov's ability is significantly more powerful, but I don't think it's quite as clean-cut as it seems. You see, first of all, Furyov can't use Hatsu during the analysis or the forging process. This means he can't use Ryu, Ken, or in other words, he straight up can't fight. I mean, he could fight, but like, how are you gonna fight without Ryu? That's the basics of the basics. Well, not the basics of the basics. It's the basics, above the basics of the basics, but below the basics of Hatsu. Also, Rihan can use his ability to defend himself. He grows the predator inside his body and then chooses when to release it. He describes it as a so-called spray and pray. In other words, if the person Rihan is analyzing decides to attack him before the predator is ready, he can still defend himself, and if he has to, he can still unleash a half-assed weak predator to buy him some time to retreat. But Furyov has to forge the material for the entire time, and if he's interrupted, the time resets. In other words, if he's not ready to fight when he's attacked, he's a sitting duck. And furthermore, Rihan conjures a Nen beast. Furyov creates equipment. In other words, Rihan's beast does all the work for him, and Furyov still has to do the fighting himself, putting himself at significantly higher risk. Even if he creates the perfect equipment, the burden of using it properly is still on him. And the last main issue to discuss here, Furyov's ability is just missing the special sauce that makes Rihan's ability work for me conceptually. All that to say, Furyov's Nen ability has much stricter conditions on it than Predator, which can be significantly more glaring as weaknesses compared to Rihan's ability. Now, having discussed all the ways in which it's worse, let's talk about all the ways in which it's better. First of all, it's more versatile, being able to reinforce his allies as well as counter enemies, which is insane. It means even if he can't safely stalk the enemy, he'll always have a fallback use for it, while Rihan would be useless in the same hypothetical position. And secondly, Rihan has to collect all the information himself, making inferences and deductions that can be wrong, and which will weaken his ability. But Furyov can just fucking read minds when it comes to net abilities. Just being near him is insanely dangerous, and that's kind of bonkers because it's designed for a conflict where people just stand around and be near each other 99.9% of the time. And honestly, the information that Furyov's ability corrects is probably more valuable than whatever equipment he produces anyway. If he figures out someone's ability, rather than go through a lengthy forging process right off the bat, he can just share the info with his comrades and they can find some other way to counter it instead of committing time to the forge, letting him save that time commitment for dealing with an ability they actually have no other way to counter. So yeah, completely fucking bonkers ability, insanely powerful. Furyov, I did not realize you had that dog in you. I honestly thought he was going to be another unremarkable emitter who exists to die in a satisfying way so we can all point and laugh at the aspiring sexual predator. But after this chapter, I love this character a whole lot more. So let's talk about the implications of what we've just witnessed here. First of all, I think Furyov's ability just gave away the user of Silent Majority and confirmed one of my theories from earlier this year. Not one of my favorite theories, but hey, gotta be happy with second place. That's right. In this video, I argued Longhee is in fact the user of Silent Majority. See, Kurapika used Dowsing Chain as a lie detector, right? But Longhee only stated that she wasn't Silent Majority's user before Kurapika used his lie detector. So actually, we don't know that statement was true. And furthermore, Furyov thought, while Kurapika and Longhee were talking, he must know she's the killer. What kind of conversation could they be having? And okay, before we thought it was process of elimination, Longhee was the last secret Nen user in the room that still was a legitimate suspect, and it seemed like Furyov had just disregarded the possibility that the user could be outside the room. However, we now know this guy can read people's Nen abilities just by being near him, and he went there to analyze them. From the start, he identified Longhee as, I think what he said was, a real professional. The most skilled, basically, of the hidden Nen users. So it makes sense that he would analyze her first, and holy shit, if she's the culprit, he would just know. He would just know. And he would also know if she wasn't the culprit. Yup, guys, I think Furyov just revealed the answer to us. Longhee is Silent Majority, and now I can say that with 99% confidence. Okay, but I also promised I'd go back to how Furyov's story didn't make sense to me at face value. So let's go over that after a quick word from our sponsor.
Full Metal Alchemist. Full Metal Alchemist.
So trying to coerce Furyov into betraying Benjamin is a huge risk, right? As we can see, it gave him the chance to pull off this insane plan with Benjamin. The safer option is obviously to just detonate the curse, no questions asked. So why would Unma and Beyond do this? And furthermore, why wouldn't Beyond just detonate the curses if he could really just do that? Well, I think those questions are related. As mentioned in chapter 401, these curses are insanely powerful, and thus they have to be restricted somehow. In other words, detonating them has to be difficult. Also, we know that there are strong curses and weak curses. If this was all linked to one detonation, why would there be any need for weaker curses? It probably comes with some sort of price that Beyond wants to avoid paying. Here's my thought. The curses either couldn't be detonated until Beyond met with Cleopatra, or the court documents Cleopatra slipped him contained valuable coded updates about the succession war that could tell him which curses would be optimal to use. Either way, I think whatever the nature of the price, Beyond can only pay the cost required to detonate once every few days. Therefore, it means he has to play it smart and strategic when choosing who to kill with his curses. That's why I think Unma would make this kind of threat. Beyond would rather use this limited resource on a prince he can only deal with this way. The other possibility is that Unma is lying about Beyond being able to detonate the curse. It could be a bluff, but I want to think that Furyov is smarter than that. Bottom line is, these curses are very inconvenient to activate, and Beyond will only use them when he has to. So continuing on, Benjamin orders the enactment of special martial law and decides to bring all the princes to his room. Interestingly, he tells the soldiers to leave the Hunter Association members unharmed, probably because he knows his soldiers can't take them just yet. But holy shit, this is the moment we've been waiting for. It honestly feels like the final trigger on the arc is being pulled, akin to the start of the palace invasion during the Chimera Ant arc, at which point shit absolutely hit the fan. Also interesting to note, he does this because he doesn't want Unma to learn about his guardian spirit beast's ability, which will, of course, allow him to survive the poison. So this is a hell of a twist. It means that this special martial law declaration isn't a do or die gambit. If Benjamin's plan fails, he can apparently survive, so he won't just be out of the game. He'll just be at a severe disadvantage. Somehow, that makes this all way scarier to me. He's doing all this when the stakes aren't even as high as we thought, so what kind of depravity is Benjamin gonna commit when he's truly backed into a corner? The thought of this man becoming an immortal guardian spirit is honestly terrifying to me, and I feel like we will see it in some kind of twisted final dance between him and Halkenberg, each having shed their original bodies. Speaking of the terror of Benjamin, oh my god, Secret Window leveled up! It's unclear if this is a function of Secret Window or Benjamin Baton, but I'm gonna guess the latter. Like, Benjamin Baton lets Benjamin upgrade the abilities with Postmortem Nen or something after he uses them enough times, which was, I think, what the narration about Secret Window implied. So yeah, he knows about Camilla's ability. Womp womp. However, I don't think this is as bad as it seems for Camilla. As I laid out in this video, I think Camilla is going to lose her Nen ability soon and be forced to rely on her guardian spirit beast. So whatever Benjamin's plan to deal with Camilla is, it's not going to actually matter, and he's going to be blindsided by a threat he had no way to see coming, while Karapika, Krollo, or whoever makes off with Camilla's Nen ability because this is it. This is the conflagration point of the arc. All the ticking time bombs are going to go off at once. This would, just for maximum inconvenience, this would be the moment Krollo makes it to tier 1. Also, we finally learned the name of the guard in 13th Prince Miriam's room. He was the last of Benjamin's soldiers whose name we did not know. His name is Saquere, and he somehow has to kill Miriam without being stopped by Hanzo, Bisky, or his Nen Beast. Good luck, Saquere. I think you have zero chance. And Benjamin is prepared for this possibility because he says that if Saquere fails, he's sending in Rihan. Now, Rihan, I think, could actually do some damage. We have confirmed by Hanzo's foray back into room 1013 through his doppelganger that Miriam's Nen Beast exists in the fake room, so Rihan could go in there, analyze it, and kill it with a predator to bring Miriam and co. back to reality. And honestly, at that point, I think Bisky would start mowing down the Royal Army soldiers like chaff rather than let them take Miriam into room 1001, but at the very least, this means that Pocket Dimension's days are probably numbered. Oh, also something I'm going to include here before I forget, Benjamin is planning to end the Succession War, like forever. Not this Succession War, the Succession War as a concept, because he thinks his Nen Beast's ability will replace the Seed Urn. So here's my pitch for what it actually is. Benjamin will inhabit his Nen Beast, becoming its guardian deity and retaining the ability of Benjamin Baton and all abilities collected with it. But every parasitic Nen Beast needs a host, and Mr. Beast will then be the one to handpick every king while serving as their guardian spirit beast in place of the one that would be granted by the Seed Urn, which is now irrelevant, probably take controlling of whoever he picks. If they're assassinated, he picks a new host. And killing the beast itself will be nigh on impossible with all the power and Nen abilities it's going to have stockpiled and continue to stockpile over the years after merging with Benjamin Baton. He'll be judge, jury, and executioner, immortal, indestructible, forever. A nation's stability is founded on the lack of resistance to its rule, after all, but with this ability that wouldn't even matter. The people launch a coup, let them succeed, attached to the leader of the revolution, perpetuate the system exactly as it was. All the while, Mr. Beast will stockpile more and greater Nen abilities, and gain more and more control over Kakin the more time that passes. Eventually, Kakin will be one unified hive mind, an entire population of Nen users in perfect telepathic sync, controlled by Benjamin Huiguo-Ro. Anyway, this is the sort of idea I get hearing him talk about an eternal Huiguo-Ro dynasty and becoming the spirit of Kakin and its god and whatnot. So last but not least, we get this map of where all the Ben men are and their reactions to the announcement that Benjamin's going to declare special martial law. And oh my god, I just realized something in real time that I did not before. Guys, Camilla's already dead. Yeah, she's dead in chapter 410. Cause look, in chapter 410, Benjamin says the only upper princes left unaccounted for are Zhonglei and Lazarus, right? And back then, we thought that means all the other princes have been apprehended. However, in chapter 413, we find out that Benjamin's first priority is to kill Camilla and Terror Sandwich himself before going to the Justice Bureau to legitimize martial law. So unless Camilla has some way to fake her death, he succeeded. She's dead. As for Terror Sandwich, I mean, he has parallel future, he can create illusions, I'm sure he's done some bullshit to fake his death. Maybe he let Benjamin kill him in parallel future. Once the body was cleaned up, he deactivated it and got off scot-free. But guys, I mean, I think Camilla's dead. We just skipped past her death without even knowing it. I mean, we're probably gonna see it, but guys, she's dead. She's dead already. Unless she surrendered willingly and Benjamin, for some reason, didn't kill her and did in fact take her to room 1001. Fuck, man, I don't know. I don't really see that happening based on how he's talking. But knowing what we learned in this chapter, Benjamin has to at the very least believe he killed Camilla and Terror Sandwich. Anyway, look at Conjugal here. Dude is ready to go. He's the one who said he prefers to shoot first and ask questions later. I knew he was going to be a loose cannon, but honestly, I don't know if he'll be able to kill Loserus, who's being protected by 2 pro hunters. Then again, with the crazy shit that's about to happen in that room, if I'm right about Halkenberg's plan, and well, you know, the assassination attempt, anything could happen. Also, I love how Koventoba's sweating, because he's just been ordered to kill Zhonglei, but Zhonglei's not home. He's not here. Out to buy milk. What's Koventoba supposed to do? I guess this is somewhat beneficial to Zhong, maybe? I'm not sure. Either way, guys, this is it. We are ticking down the minutes until the palace invasion section of the arc. And no, I do not think this means the arc itself is going to end soon. Remember, the palace invasion was almost 60 chapters, so even if this is the climax of the arc, we still have a long way to go. So last thing I want to mention is our bingo board here for this batch of chapters. And look, I'm pretty sure we're ticking towards a few more of these, but I could be misreading the situation entirely because I've done that before. Really, I don't want to tick anything off until we're 100% sure. 99% is not enough. Anyway, folks, all that being said, what a crazy fucking chapter. Hot diggity dog, I'm so unbelievably excited to see what happens next, and I hope you all have a wonderful day.